the squirrel, Mr. Adam Holden.
Hey now, don't poke the bear. Has anyone ever had to tell you that? Did you listen? Did the bear wake up? We have all been guilty of poking the proverbial bear. We tease or joke or horseplay with someone until the situation comes to a head, and we learn that the other side can poke back. I myself have a bad habit of poking the bear, especially when it comes to when discussions turn into debates. I'd like to think I'm just confident in my opinions, but more likely, I just don't know when to shut up. When I began driving in high school, I had a long commute. In an old car, you needed something to fill the empty air with. And for me, one of those things turned out to be conservative political talk radio. Talk radio is great for keeping up with current affairs. I was more clued in with the comings and goings on Capitol Hill than any high schooler really has a need to be. Subsequently, I joined Debate Club. But talk radio is good for giving you sound bites and not necessarily teaching you discourse. So Debate Club quickly turned into Berate Club, which turned into Hurl the Straw Man and Go Home Feeling Good About Your Position Club. When I graduated from high school and moved on to college, I did not have Debate Club, so I had to move my discussions to the world's most civil communication platform, Facebook. I would leave a frustrating class at UAH and drive home for 45 minutes listening to someone tell me what I should be outraged about. And I'd get home and get on my computer and tell all of my friends what they should be outraged about. Before I had any nieces or nephews, I was that annoyingly political uncle on the internet. After one of these naive one-sided rants, I got into a comment war with another user. Initially, we had a lot of points in common, and we were agreeing with one another. But as the discussion continued, and our points of contention became clearer, I became more accusatory and provocative. And they retaliated with attacks and threats of serious physical violence. This situation made me seriously reconsider how abrasive my attitude could be. I cut out a lot of the talk radio and switched to audiobooks. I tried listening to other people when they're talking to me instead of vigilantly looking for an in. I learned it's more important to consider other viewpoints than it is to always be right. Now, that was not a story about poking a literal bear, like the Ursus Americanus, but I do have a story about provoking a Cerus carolinensis, otherwise known as the common eastern gray squirrel. See, when my wife and I first got married, we lived in an apartment complex on Montesano Mountain. The location was great, and the rent was unbeatable. There was a catch. There was no in-unit laundry. The on-site laundromat was expensive, unreliable, and most importantly, used by other people. So we did what any rational adult would do, and we saved up weeks' worth of laundry into baskets and took it to a family member's house so they could have their laundry machines used by other people. One of our favorite targets was my brother and sister-in-law, who lived nearby. We would go over and dog sit in exchange for using their house as a well-decorated laundromat with good Wi-Fi. On one of these occasions, it was the middle of fall, and the old trees in the neighborhood were growing heavy with pecans and walnuts. The neighborhood squirrels were having their heyday. You could look in any given direction and see 4 or 5 squirrels in your field of vision. You sometimes couldn't tell if it was raining or not from the rustling in the branches and the shells falling from the tree. On these days, I would be in and out of the house lot carrying baskets to and from my car. On one such fateful exchange, I was up carrying a basket out the front door with my back, only to see a squirrel 3 feet from myself in the entryway. We froze. We made eye contact. That was the first mistake. The second mistake was making a lunging stomp in the squirrel's direction. And in that moment, I remembered that the fight or flight response left open the option to fight, and I mentally prepared myself to fend off the squirrel with a clean pair of socks as it tried to claw my eyes out. The squirrel leapt into the air, luckily backwards and onto a pillar of the porch. In that moment, I learned something else. Squirrels can scream at you. You know those the farmer says toys with the pull string and the loudspeaker? The cow says moo. The rooster says cock-a-doodle-doo. Either I wasn't using it right, or I never had one say, the squirrel says ree, ree, ree. But they can and they do. When I realized that the squirrel was now far away enough that my eyes were out of immediate danger, I proceeded to move forward towards my car. The squirrel dashed ahead and onto a pole above the trunk of my car and continued its screaming at me. Ree, ree, ree. I put the laundry away, but for the rest of the day as I came in and out of the house, the squirrel continued its verbal assault. My careless actions had branded me as an aggressor, and that squirrel and I will never have a pleasant conversation. We all learn by interacting with the things and people around us. Sometimes we just learn by making enough mistakes that things blow up in our face and we have to deal with the repercussions head on. But the next time you find yourself about to poke the proverbial bear, put the poking stick down, back away slowly. If you do find yourself in a situation, you have raised the tension to a point where things are turning around and they are not in your favor, consider playing dead. Mr. Contest.